Good evening, folks. Welcome back to another Monday night live stream. I was going to say, how is you doing? Oh, my English is going really good today. How is everybody? That's what I meant to say. How are you all doing? How's your Monday been? Has Monday been treating you well, or has it been a bit like mine? Not the best, but it's got better now because I'm with you lot. So let's have a look in the chat. This is a nice little bunch of you have been in quite since about 7:30, having a chat, to be fair. So about an hour and a half ago. Rain was in nice and early. Says, hey. Is the painting challenge up already? I've let the side down this month, buddy, haven't I? I have let the side down. I'll get it sorted, I promise. Furious George is in as well, or he certainly was earlier on. Flying Mammal was in early as well. Let's have a scroll down a little bit. Phil Wilkinson popped in as well. Good evening, Phil. Joel Wrigley was around. Said I'm also competing with Canada versus Cameroon in the FIFA Women's World Cup. I actually watched some of the Women's World Cup yesterday, and I have to say I really enjoyed the games. There was, which ones did I watch? I watched the Brazil and Jamaica game, which I thought was pretty cool, and then I watched the England game after that. England-Scotland. What else we got going on as well? Let's have a look. What's happening with my collar? Is this microphone? Let me just move it around a bit. Make me look like I've got bugger to it. We'll leave it as it is. Al Krabby's in. He says, I'm in the Hilton Birmingham tonight with work, so we'll try and tune in after I sink these beers. Enjoy the beers, buddy. Dice Tales is in as well. Good evening, Mark. Nice to see you in the chat. Robert Zung's in. Always good to see you too, buddy. He says he made it early even. He's got a beer there and he's working on some core space minis. Sound like a perfect evening, mate. Well done. Nice one. Christian is in as well. Evening, buddy. How are you doing? Steve Evans is in. Good evening, Steve Evans. Michael's in as well from Miniature Painting. Evening, fella. Mark's in as well. Mark Berracloth. Good evening to you too, my friend. Peter Nicholas is in as well. He says, hello, BlackJack and Andy. I'm on time. Welcome to the early club. Craig Lowther's in as well. He says, evening all. How are we doing? He's got the frogs from Hellboy on the table tonight. Nice to see somebody else getting a bit of painting in. We've got the Fomorian in as well, saying cheerio at all. Evening to you too, buddy. We've got Tony in as well, another one of the members there. Good evening, Tony. Michael says, he's good, mate. Did you shave? I have trimmed it back a bit. Obviously, there's not much I can do with my hair rather than get like long and fluffy or short. So if I ever fancy a bit of a change, it's got a bit of bigger. So I kind of trimmed the beard back at the weekend. It's grown back a little bit now, but I would never shave it all off. I look kind of weird with no beard, but it's kind of a bit more stubbly and a bit shorter than it was anyway. Bazza's in as well. Says, howdy. Evening, Bazza. Furious George says, does Andy look younger today? Is that what it is? As it took a few years off me, has it? I think it's because I was starting to get a bit of grey in the edges as well. So as I've kind of shaved it down a bit, I think it's kind of took some of the grey off. Where are we at? Glenn's in as well. Good evening, Glenn. Awesome to see you picked up your ticket for the Weekender as well. We'll be touching on the Weekender soon. Different Gear TV's in. Says, evening, mate. Not a good Monday. No. This is the Great Mug giveaway stream. It is, mate. However, I'm not even sure how I'm going to do it. I'm going to have to give it some thought. Because in the past, I've always kind of done giveaways where I've asked people to go and sort of comment on videos or something like that. But I want to make sure it's somebody that's in the chat tonight that wins the mug. But I don't want to just kind of choose somebody because that feels like I'll kind of, it'll be biased a bit. So as we're going, I'll think of a way to draw it. But here is the mug that you can win on tonight's live stream. You would be, let's get it in focus, the first person to win one of these mugs tonight. And as I mentioned last week, these are going to be exclusive to giveaways and probably Patreons and members on YouTube as well. You won't be able to buy these. These will only be gifted, given away, won, whatever you want to call it. Where are we at? Steve's in as well. He says, I hear this is where the sexy people hang out. Every week, mate. Every week. How are you doing? Steve's saying there, I forgot it was mug night. Yeah, see? You all trying to pretend you didn't know. That's the only reason you're all here. You only just come in to try and grab a mug. Where are we at? Peter says, I'm not hanging out, my people. I'm not hanging out my people. I don't know what that means, mate. We got Marcus in as well. It says, hope all's well. Everyone doing okay. Nice to see you too, Marcus. Skull Muncher's in as well. It says, good evening, Andy. Evening all, and even top table Steve. Gets a bit of Steve getting a bit of a shout out there. Joel says to Furious George, Andy's not getting younger. You're just a week older, and your eyesight's getting worse. Joel, man. Thought we were friends now. Now we've met in the flesh, face to face. Thought we were friends now. Marcus is in as well. Good evening, Marcus. He says, hola, Mr. B. How's everyone this beautiful summer's day? Perfect weather for painting. It's been glorious here today in the northeast of England, but it was looking a little bit grey, and we've got flood warnings, I think, overnight. They're expecting to have something like a month's worth of rain in a couple of hours tonight. Claudio's in. Evening, buddy. How you doing? He said he's just went through a Dead Zone escalation PDF, and I love it. I knew many things, but still so much stuff. Now to wait for my physical copy. On the live stream and Imperial Assault painting. The Imperial Assault stuff, mate, was looking awesome, by the way. And yes, Dead Zone, the new, is it an expansion? The new document, anyway, basically is now live, isn't it? Baz is saying he's painting 60 Necrons for a commission. Don't knock the grey in the beard. Well, I'm not going to get any grey in the hair, that's for sure, mate. So I've got to. Just makes me look a bit distinguished, eh? I saw your picture, mate. I think it was on the unification group of all the Necrons lined up, mate. You've got your hands full with those ones. Glyn's saying a random number generator. The problem is, Glyn, it means I've got to go and give everybody a number then, which is not that easy when we've got about 40 people in the chat at the minute, and it's still quite early. Where we're doing, I've skipped. Tim's in as well. He says, hey Andy, how are you doing here all? I'm not too bad, Tim. I've had better days, but I'm all right, thanks. Noxie's in as well. Evening all. He says, evening Noxie, how you doing? Steve's saying he's here for the mugs. Peter says, give the mug to the first person who asks for it. Please may I have the mug? Mark's saying hashtag mugwatch. Michael says, come on mate, no competition, no painting challenge. Combine power. I know. I'll see how I'm going to do it. I want to make it fair. That's all. I want to make it fair. Tim's saying, not wrong with a bit of grey. The silver fox look is in. It's not like I've got a choice, mate. I'm not going to start dyeing it. That's for sure. Joel is saying, for your information, it's 1-0 to Canada. They scored just before half time. Thank you for the updates, buddy. Skullmunch says, if I won it, I'll be honest, I'd be a bit smug up. Oh man. Puns. Different Gay says, put the chat names in a hat and pick one out. That means I've got to write them all down. You don't want to be sitting there listening to me while I'm going, right, what's the next one? What's the next one? I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I will. I'll find something. Tony says, wifey says, I can hobby all I like, but if I shave the beard off, then she'll drive me. I once shaved mine off. I had a bit of my skin came out in a bit of a reaction to something. So I decided to shave the beard off just to kind of give it a chance to recover and stuff. And I look weird with no beard. It's been a long time since I've had no beard. I've always kind of had stubble, like even if it was shorter than this, but I've never kind of been clean shaven. That's for sure. Michael's saying that's why I shave for a fancy mugshot. Just fancy a bit of a change, to be fair. Skullmunch says, I couldn't handle the excitement of winning the mug. Is this going to be like one of those Apple mugs, is it? Where it's like £4,000 for the cup and another $999 for the handle. That's the way it works. Joel is saying, we are friends. It's just good-natured bands. I know, mate. I'm taking the mic. Dice Tail says, more conspiracy busting, please. Like Mythbusters. I'm going to rebrand the channel as BlackJack Mythbusters. We've got Bloggy in as well. Good evening, mate. How are you doing? This is how's everyone been? I've been fine, mate. I'll let everybody else answer and let them know how they've been. Dice Tail says, give the mug to the last person in the chat tonight. That's not a bad idea, mate. Whoever's left in the longest. Joyce says, Furious Joyce, sorry, says, can we hear the Biker Grove story before we begin on the topic? Yeah, why not? So it was mentioned, I can't remember how it cropped up last week, but somebody said something about Biker Grove or something about being somebody. I can't remember what, something to do with Biker Grove, and I said I had a Biker Grove story. So when I was a kid, I'm thinking, how old was I? I must have been about 11 or 12. Biker Grove wasn't a thing. It hadn't appeared on TV yet. For those that don't know, it's a kids' TV show in the UK that was set in Newcastle, around like a youth club in Newcastle. And a lot of kids from my school were asked if we wanted to go and be extras in a TV show that was being filmed. So a few of us all kind of got on a bus. We were bussed up to this kind of. First of all, we went to where the Biker Grove sort of youth club was, which was a bit of like an old church hall by the looks of it, or an old church. And we had to kind of mill around in the background and stuff. And then we went outside and we had to play a bit of football and stuff. And then we also got taken to the BBC studios as well, where we did some kind of inside filming and stuff as well. And I had to say a line. I had one line in the show. I was in 3 different episodes of Biker Grove, and I had one line in the TV show. So somewhere in the first series, there's me and a very, very young Declan Donnelly, along with a few other sort of semi-famous people, I think you could say, in Biker Grove. So yeah, I was in 3 episodes of Biker Grove when I was in my early teens, I guess, probably 11 or 12, something like that, maybe coming up to 13. So there you go. And I've just saw him else in his Biker Grove already 700 years. Thanks, mate. That would explain the grey and the beard anyway. Let's have a look. Craig says, are you on Kid Watch tonight? No, my wife's here tonight. I won't be running out halfway through. Not unless there's a sudden emergency. Kieran says, evening, folks. Evening, mate. How are you doing? Marcus says, how about the best mugging story to win the mug? Owned Drop Zone Army for 2 years. No games. Sold the army for a loss. 1 week later, mates pick up Drop Zone Commander. I cave in and buy the army again. You were mugged, mate. They saw you coming, didn't they? Joel's second on the motion for the Biker Grove story. We got Malkavian in. Good evening, Michael. How are you doing? Bazza said he shaved his beard off once. The 2 boys didn't recognise me. My beard was huge. Henrik's in as well. Good evening, Henrik. Bloggy's doing good. Glad to hear that, my friend. Michael is saying, laugh all you want. They also did it with the Apple Pro. The carry handle is 599. I can't believe that, mate. I almost thought it was fake when I saw it the first time. Keegan's saying definitely more Biker Grove. Steve saying he shaved his facial hair off once and his missus and the kids just laughed at him. It's funny, isn't it, when people just get used to it. My wife has never ever known me without a beard. Like, it's always been there kind of thing. So yeah, that one time I shaved it off, yeah, she said it didn't look like me. It didn't, like, if I was to give her a kiss, it just didn't feel like me without any kind of stubble on. Where are we at? Buzz is saying, BlackJack, you went the one who shot Ant in the eyes and blinded him. I wasn't. Furious George says, what was the line? I can't remember, mate. I mean, we're going back like over 30 years ago now. And I've kind of tried to Google on YouTube and all that kind of stuff and try and find those old episodes. But yeah, to no success. Noxie's saying 3 different episodes in A-lister. It was more to do with, I think it was the way they filmed the stuff and I was just kind of spread across different bits. It wasn't meant to be famous. Michael saying, do you know what episodes they are? I don't remember, mate, but it was definitely the first series. There can't have been that many episodes, to be fair. Joel says, did you snog Spuggy? No, but Spuggy was in it, mate. She was very young at the time, as was I, to be fair. We got Lee in as well, scouting the web. Evening, buddy. Hal Martin saying, good day, Andy. Hope all is well. We've got Duffy Makowski in. Good evening, Duffy. Don't think we've chatted before. Might be your first time in the live stream. So thank you very much for joining us tonight. Always good to see some new faces in, some new people in. Nick's in as well. Good evening, Nick Yelland. He said he's just putting together some Macabre 2s and enjoying the stream. I wish I knew what they were, mate. I'm assuming, I'm not even going to try and guess. Michael saying they have them on YouTube. Yeah, I've looked, but I don't think they're all there. I think that's the problem, mate. Flying Mama says, I think I still have the VHS recorded off the TV. Sadly, though, you don't have a VHS to play them on. Marcus is saying to Claudio he's interested in the new direction of Dead Zone. What does Escalation do differently? I tell you what, Mike, if I find myself, I will clip the links, I will clip the images and I'll pop them into the Facebook group, but I'll try and see if I can check them out. Steve saying, Biker Grove, nearly every lad of my generation fancied Donna Air on the slide. Yeah, she's quite a wealthy young lady now. She's married to the guy that owns Asper's Casinos. Nick says, on the subject of shaving off beards, the wife says, if I shave off my beard, she feels a bit like a cradle snatcher. Steve saying he met Spuggy and Torremolinos on a stag do. She looks a bit different as she grew up, mate, didn't she? She was much nicer as a grown up as she was as a child. That's for sure. Nick saying Team Yankee taps. Thanks. That would be explain why I didn't know what they were. And Noxie says next week's topic: why was Biker Grove so popular? Come on, mate. You only need to look at the camera now. Look at the screen even. Anyway, so where are we at? Yes, this week's topic. So I had a bit of, I must admit, I really kind of struggled with the topic for this week. I was trying to kind of rack my brains, come up with something to talk about. I even put it out there in the Facebook group. And then while I was kind of sitting about it, I decided that, what kind of triggered it was. So during last week, I did a video about the truth behind the kind of the Games Workshop box releases. And whenever I talk about Games Workshop on a video, it gets way more views. There's just a bigger audience. There's more people searching for it online. It's just, I get a boost in subscribers. I get a boost in views. It's a really popular game. Warhammer 40K, that is. So, it kind of got me thinking, like, what have the other companies, what have Mantic, what have War Cradle, what have Night Models, what have Weird Miniatures, what have Privateer Press, what's Warlord Games, what's all of these companies, what are they not doing that Games Workshop have done? Why are those games not as popular? And I kind of started breaking it down and thinking about it in my head. And yes, GW have a presence on the high street and they've been around for a long time. So there's a lot of kind of history and a lot of equity there, if you like. They have fantastic background and all of the Black Library books and all of the kind of the kind of a very rich background to the stories. They have some absolutely fantastic miniatures. There's no denying Games Workshop make, if not the best, then certainly some of the best miniatures in tabletop gaming. And it's just a popular game, so it breeds popularity by the fact that you can, if you're going to sort of get a game somewhere, you're going to get a game of that. Now that said, Warhammer 40K is not like, it's not fundamentally different. It's not a groundbreaking game. They don't have game mechanics that you can't get elsewhere, or potentially even better games mechanics. There are some fantastic games out there these days. There are some fantastic ranges of miniatures out there. Other companies have some very rich backgrounds as well. I mean, if you take sort of Bolt Action as an example, there is no background more rich and more full of history than World War II. So from a background point of view, there's plenty there as well from other games. We now have more hobby stores, but I think one of the problems is that it's almost that it's self-fulfilling prophecy of people play the popular stuff because they know they can get a game for it, which then drives sort of hobby shops to only stock Games Workshop and Magic the Gathering, and it sets this ball rolling that people just end up getting bought into it, and those other companies almost just don't stand a chance of getting a foothold. I'm not saying Warhammer isn't a fantastic game and there aren't hundreds of thousands of people, if not millions, who enjoy the game, but that kind of level of dominance over this time, I'm surprised at some point there hasn't been somebody that's managed to kind of grab a piece of that action. The closest thing I think we've probably had in recent years is probably X-Wing getting up close, when probably at a time when 40K was maybe 6th, 7th edition, something like that, not in its best place. So anyway, I've rambled for a little bit. I'm going to get a quick drink. We'll have a look in the chat. We'll see what you think. Which games do you think that are on the market now, or which games that have been on the market in the past? Which ones do you think could have challenged 40K for that top spot? Which ones do you think could still challenge 40k for that top spot is something like Star Wars Legion. Now it's getting a little bit of kind of sort of traction. It's got a bit of background behind it now. It's got a rich universe around it. You know, you can certainly go off and play Star Wars computer games. You can watch Star Wars movies. You're surrounded with that. The game's pretty decent. The miniatures are not bad. Does this stand a chance with a bit of longevity of catching up, or is just 40k just too far away? Let's have a look. Henrik said he's painting up some Dead Zone terrain. Michael says we are going to try the game. Hal says I was an extra in 21 Jump Street and an extra and background in several X-Files back in the 90s. Extra in Happy Gilmore too. Hal, you're my new movie star friend, mate. Michael is saying, what's a cradle snatcher? I think that's a very British term for somebody that, how can I phrase this without it sounding wrong? Somebody who would have relationships with people much younger than them, but not underage. I should stress. Joel saying, Hal Martin, which bit of Happy Gilmore are you in? That would be cool to watch that bit too. Andy Smith says, I'll read pet. How you doing, Andy? Steve saying, what happens on tour stays on tour. Claudio saying, so much stuff is in the new Dead Zone book. Let's have a look. Lee says, I'm sleeving up my Keyforge starter set. Nice purchase, mate. Did you buy the first one or did you buy the new, forget what it's called now, whatever the second starter set was called, the blue one, I think it is. Steve says, yeah, new Dead Zone book and cards at Ace. I must check that out at some point. Michael says, on topic, the whole reason is that it's so expensive that when you start, you feel a pity for your wallet if you just discard it. I don't subscribe to that. I think people who trap themselves into a hobby saying, I've already invested £500 or £1,000 or £5,000, whatever it is, I've already invested all this money in it. I'm not going to play something else that's better or more appealing. Because all you're doing then is you're just throwing more money at something that maybe you're not that into. If you're into it, great. I'm not even suggesting like that Warhammer isn't a good game or that the people that love it aren't sort of justified in loving it. I'm just surprised that other games can't get a foothold. I think they do in certain areas. So, like for example, there was a big Guild Ball community around Manchester area. I think there's big Kings of War sort of communities around Leeds area and a bit further south. So games do get popular in areas, but they're in pockets. They don't like spring up and become a huge global success. Look at the money that War Cradle have put behind Wild West Exodus to try and really push that one out. You've got Conquest coming by Parabellum now. Beautiful miniatures, rules written by LSO Cavatori. They've spent years doing all of the background stuff. Is it going to just be another kind of flash in the pan, or is this going to be a GW challenger? Let's see. Michael saying also they were the first. They were the first company, but 40k wasn't the first game, was it? And I know there's a whole thing about fantasy being killed off and all that kind of stuff I don't really want to get into tonight. But they've had shaky spots, you know what I mean? They've went through times when the rules weren't great, and even the people that loved the game previously were on its back. 8th edition really did kind of rescue it for me, I think. Like, that was the point where it was the turnaround of GW and things were starting to get better. But up until that point, there were some shaky points. Flying Mammal is saying, I guess it sells more and has been around so long, but I don't think it's that popular. It's just that most people's first knowledge of minigames, because it's on the high street as such. There is that, Ruth, but I do wonder what impact. I mean, obviously it's a huge impact, the fact that they've got shops and they sell it all online, like out on the high street and stuff. But it's almost just, it's become kind of self-fulfilling that shops only stock it because they know it's a big game, and they don't stock smaller companies because nobody plays it, and nobody plays it because nobody stocks it, and they only stock GW, so they go there. And it just feels like it's in this horrible cycle that basically is very difficult to break into, because it's if you look at it from a retailer point of view, you sell the stuff that's popular. So you sell Games Workshop stuff. If you talk about kind of YouTube content, if you want to get views, you make stuff about the stuff that's popular because there's people watching it. If you want to play the game, you want to make sure that you can get a game, you play the stuff that's popular. It's almost as if it's just trapped in this cycle, and I haven't got the answers. I'm not professing to have the answers, but I would love to know what other companies could do or should do to break into that cycle. Lee saying Black Library is so unique and above and beyond anyone else's lore and background, so you always have the connection with your game no matter where you are. I think that helps. I think it's a big part of it, mate. But then if you think there is games like look at Star Wars Legion as an example. There are a lot of Star Wars sort of novels. There's so much other Star Wars stuff. If you're really into Star Wars as an example, X-Wing, all of those things, it's a similar kind of thing. I think it's almost the sum of its parts rather than one or two particular things. It's a big kind of a bit of a vicious circle, I think. Michael is saying you can ask the same question with Dungeons and Dragons. Pathfinder here is the Mantic for minis, but there are so much cool games, Dread for example, but not popular. Yeah, I'm not as familiar with RPG stuff, so I can't really talk with any authority on it, but I think you're probably right. Dungeons and Dragons certainly is, I think, am I right in thinking that the D&D kind of D20 system is kind of open source, so a lot of people can use the same engine, if you like? Is that not why some of that is kind of tacked onto the side of it? I think. Ruth says everyone I know plays fantasy or moved on to other years ago. I wonder if that, when you were saying it's not that popular, I wonder if that's another example of pockets of areas. How many people moved from fantasy when it was killed off across to 40k? How many people left 40k, played other stuff, and went back to it when 8th edition came out, for example? Michael said if Mantic would have pushed a bit more with Warpath, they could have had a bit of the cake. I'm not that sure, mate, to be honest. I mean, you look at Gates of Antares as well. Like, there's nothing wrong with that as a game. There's nothing wrong with it as a miniatures line. It's just, I think the other companies spread themselves quite thin to try and make a living, because one game on its own can't sustain them, I think, as well. And that takes their eye off the ball. They're smaller companies. They've only got so much resource. They can't market, say, Warpath or Gates of Antares the way that GW markets 40k. Andy Smith says, to be honest, being new to this, I'm not that bothered by 40k. Tried it, not for me. Love Kill Team. I'm in a similar boat, mate, if I'm honest. 40k for me isn't a huge draw. I love the miniatures. I think the background's fantastic, but I'm not, the game doesn't really draw me in. I'll be honest. There's other games that kind of draw me in more. Peter says somehow 40k seems to be the genuine article. Others are more like clones. I wouldn't agree with that, mate. I don't think. I think there's a lot of stuff that 40k does is heavily borrowed from other games now. It's been massively influenced by AOS, for example, the latest rules. Where are we up to? Glenn said he's just finished some paperwork. He's back now. Phil said I thought D&D was very popular. I think it is, me. I think that's the whole point. That D&D is massively popular, and other RPGs almost kind of live in its shadow. Christian is saying, I think it may be a generalization thing passed down between family and friends. Also, the lore is a big draw for a lot of people, and despite the cost, the miniatures are some of the best around. I wouldn't even say they were that expensive compared to some now. I think everybody else is almost kind of catching up. Yes, they're expensive, but I don't think anybody's really cheap anymore, are they? Nobody's knocking it out for kind of 50p a model or anything like that anymore. I think also, Christian, from what you're saying there is an element of it being passed down from kind of like, like I play 40k, so my son will play 40k or whatever it is. And I don't know if the lore is a big draw to kind of getting people into the game. I think people who are into the game get involved in the lore. But maybe it's kind of, it's a little bit sort of clouded because what we see online are very fanatical people. Maybe there's, maybe a lot of sort of people, what do I want to kind of say it? Maybe there are a lot of people that just literally paint a few models and play in their garage or play in the kind of in the kitchen table with friends or with family, and their only real access is just nipping into town into a GW and picking up some models. Is it just the fact that they have a high street presence that makes them so accessible, if you like, and then it ends up being the default because of that? Tim says Legion is solid, great minis, but not for everyone. A bit more cheerful than the darkness and lore. Yeah, that's kind of how I see it as well. If I could only play, if I was only allowed to play 40k or Legion, I think it would be Legion for me. I'm a big Star Wars fan. I always have been. And whilst the 40k universe, I'm sure, is really, really rich, it's a bit heavy for me, if I'm honest. It's like it's a bit grim. It's a bit dark. There's not a lot of kind of lightheartedness in it from what I've read so far. Michael saying, plus in my mini vicinity there are a lot of them hard plastic Crusaders. That's just jumped off the top of my screen there. Auto Pro GW. Tim saying only downside to Legion is painting Stormtroopers white. I'm with you on that, mate. Steve said it's funny really, as back at the beginning Warhammer Fantasy was the top dog and 40k was the new game. That's kind of my point, Ray, and this is what I meant before about, I know they killed off Fantasy, but Fantasy was dwindling at that point in time. Regardless of what people want to believe, no company kills a game off if it's been massively profitable or it's growing. But there's a point where 40k overtook Fantasy and made up a huge part of their portfolio. But GW weren't always this bigger company. They have grown over time. They've always had shops on the high street as long as I can remember. I wonder what it is. If I think about like local hobby, that's the other side as well. Like local hobby stores open up and sell GW. You think that they'd be able to sell other stuff that you can't easily access, but that doesn't seem to be the case. Hal saying, I think GW's big advantage is their product availability, small packages that retailers can afford to risk picking up to test customers. That isn't available with most companies. I'm not sure, mate. I mean, a lot of companies are cheaper. A lot of companies will give you more models per pound, if you like. If you see some of the big companies, people like Element and Wayland and people like that, when you see their displays at shows, there's plenty of choice and it's comparable price-wise, I would say. Where are we at? Lee saying it's the newest blue version. Quite a lot of the Blood Bowl players I play Keyforge too, so get around and down the pub. Yeah, it's a nice little filler game as well. It doesn't have to be a kind of a long drawn-out game. It's nice just to be able to stick a deck in your bag, isn't it, and just be able to play it. Jimmy Gibbons is in as well. Good evening, Jimmy. He says, GW grab the young market hard and they invest what cash they have and don't look elsewhere. I'm just surprised that people do blindly kind of just become blinkered to everything else. It's quite interesting, really. Tim said, I love GW to bring out a non-40k or AOS genre game, something new, a new IP. Well, there was a point in time when obviously they invested quite heavily in The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings, wasn't it? And that looked a little bit dodgy for a while as well. And I think they were almost so invested in it they couldn't get out of it. But they don't push it as hard these days, do they? For all they've just brought it back, you don't see it pushed like the other games do. Where are we at? Hal says the Mini Junkie YouTube channel has an excellent for how to paint Stormtroopers. Yeah, I've seen that before actually. More SG is in. Good evening, buddy. He said lack of players is the big deal. I got into Mantic Games where I am in Australia, but couldn't find many players for Kings of War and no one that played Warpath. I guess it depends upon where you play as well, doesn't it? Because if you play in a GW store, if that's your only place to play, then that's going to limit what you play. If you just play at kind of your house or a buddy's house or something like that, I guess you can play whatever you want then. You've got a ready-made player. But if you're going to like a gaming club or a gaming store and you're just turning up on the off chance you can get a game, maybe that's where 40k kind of gets a foothold as well. Glenison, I find it very location and generation based. Like Christian said, grown up and being taught games by my dad, naturally I prefer similar games to him. However, Glenn, you must have tried other games as well, haven't you? Like you play a lot of Lord of the Rings as well, but you must have tried other stuff. Peter saying to Tim, how about a game about pirates set in the old world? Furious George says, GW is a safe investment as far as your time and money goes. You can rest easy knowing your models will be compatible with future editions and games for years to come. Which is fine, but how many... There are some other big games. I mean, like, look at Bolt Action. You can buy those miniatures and they're not suddenly going to be kind of sort of null and void, are they? Most other big games, most of Mantic stuff, like they've never destroyed a game. They've never written off what can and can't be used. So I do get what you mean, but they're not sort of unique in that aspect. Leasing, good point about investment on Warhammer. It's such a great resale value that you could always sell it on to little to no loss and move on if it's not for you. Painted minis could even make a profit. Yeah, I just find that a lot of people that I speak to who almost feel like I've invested so much into it that it will be wrong to get out. So I'll just keep investing more in it and complain about it, not enjoy it, but I'm in the hobby now, so I've just got to keep going. I find that quite strange. Like, that's just how some people are. It's like, oh, I'm sick of this. I'll just buy a new army. Like, rather than, actually, I might try a starter set for something else. Noxie is saying something like Star Wars has the best chance to overtake 40k. Tons of lore and existing fans to bring to the tabletop. Maybe. I think it wasn't helped by its early release schedule, that basically it was quite slow to get stuff out there. With Clone Wars coming along now and a lot more stuff released, I think it's in a much, much better place. I hear more about it now. It feels like it's getting a bit of a second wind. I just wonder if it's just too far behind now. That's the problem. Christian is saying hobby stores are also a big draw. I can easily get the 3 GWs, but there are no local gaming stores near me. I'm in exactly the same boat, mate. I can get to 3 GWs within a matter of less than half an hour, easily. Gaming stores, next to none. Yeah. Tim says, could call it mud and blunder. Michael said, as a retailer, I heard that every week there is a stock call which is sold. What is sold needs to be refilled, that call, or lose the license after 2 or 4 times of not ordering. It's quite interesting, that, isn't it? And yet there's plenty of people stock their stuff. Where we are, let's just jump off the top of my screen there. Wow. It really did jump off the top of my screen. He's saying, so they take money from you to refill their own stock in your store, thus the retailer is less able to buy other stuff. However, if it's selling, mate, why would you not buy it? Phil says 40k is getting better with sculpts and the lore's been built up for a long time, has a lot of narrative and has more advertising in a way with White Dwarf. The thing is with White Dwarf though, I don't think anybody buys White Dwarf and then thinks, oh, there's this whole world. White Dwarf surely just sells to people who are in the GW hobby, if you like. Claudio says, I think, not for me, a big point are translations. I've heard so often that only English games are a no-go for many players. That's quite an interesting point, buddy, actually. I never really considered that about the quality of the translations. Because I know obviously GW have a big sort of foreign language team. Well, I say big, they have a team, which is not what most companies do. It's a really, really good point, actually, not something I would have necessarily kind of thought of. Where we are at Henrik's, Claudia saying many people who have the money to heavily buy into games earlier in their life sometimes lack education to fully understand English. That's a really good point, mate. Henrik saying I think the only other companies can do is making rules and proxy lists available so people can try new games easy. I'm not a big fan of proxy lists. Like, I think it limits the company. I understand that, oh, come and try our rules, but it's not rules that make GW money. It's the miniatures. It's the selling of the miniatures. By all means, give the rules away if you want to, but you want people buying your miniatures. That's how companies will grow. And I actually, if it was my business, I'm not that sure I'd want people using other people's miniatures to play my game. I'm putting lots of like R&D and kind of playtest time into tweaking them rules and updating them, but then I'm not really making any money back off it. Lee says, touching on the popularity thing, I nearly jumped back to 40k because so many play it locally and was thinking it must be me. So many people play it, the game must be good, right? Lee, you've kind of taken the words out of my mouth. I keep going back and keep trying to get into it because of that exact thing. Like, so many people play it. Like, what am I missing out? Like, I'm a YouTube channel. I'm trying to get views. It's part of the fun for me is to see a video do well. I know for a fact if I do a video about Warhammer 40k, it's going to get more views than if I do a video about Walking Dead, for example. Why would I not want to get involved in that game? But every time I go back, I find the entry point difficult, which is what I find so strange is that everybody just gets sort of smoothed into it. It must be me. It honestly must be. Christian is saying the other draw of 40k is a freedom to create. You're not limited within a single army to one colour scheme or hero type. You can pretty much make what you want. Sure, that's the case for a lot of miniatures games, though. If you think of Kings of War, if you think of Vanguard, if you think of Bolt Action's a bad example, but you can technically paint your own colour. Gates of Antares, Wild West Exodus, Malifaux, Batman. I guess the joy is in painting them the right colour. But there's not really any that you are absolutely 100% tied to, surely. Steve said, I said throughout my hobby life I'd never touched 40k, has heard all the horror stories of BD players. I have to say, since trying it out, I'm really enjoying the game and looking forward to getting more involved in it. So I have to admit it's very good. I don't deny it's a decent game, but I just don't think it's not groundbreaking. There are other games with better mechanisms and better mechanics, or certainly as good as, if not better. Different Gear TV says, what I would like to see a crossover game where people can play with their miniatures online with other people, because living in Spain, it's difficult to find players. I think that's probably the one thing they probably don't want is to lose some of their player base to online stuff. It surprises me. Oh, sorry, I should say it doesn't surprise me. Some of the stuff that GW do with their online games, a lot of it's set in the old world, but with Underworlds getting an online version, that did surprise me a bit, actually. Christiansen, we've already seen that one. Glenn Griffin says, Andy, are you still doing your Space Wolves? They've kind of stalled a little bit. First of all, good evening, Glenn. Thanks for dropping in. They've kind of stalled a bit at the minute. I got them to a point where I had more than enough to be playing kill team games with them, and they kind of stalled a bit because it was around the time I had a bit of a kind of a restructure around what I was doing with my videos and things on the channel. So I have been kind of tinkering with them in the background, and there's probably more done than there was on the last video that I did for them. I just don't find that the videos don't do particularly well. So I'm better off making a video about something else than I am about that. And the videos were more about trying to keep me motivated to keep doing them. Where are we at? Steve there saying the game in the background so rich and vast. That's what attracts me to games and why I only played Middle Earth for so long. I get that, but other games do have rich backgrounds as well. You can't tell me some of it's not about chasing some views. Noxie is saying High Street really helps. I wander into Newcastle every Wednesday, certain I'll get a kill team game. War Machine was never easy to find games. See, the games I've played, I've always found easy to find games because I have been part of clubs where they played that game. So I played Malifaux, I played War Machine, I travelled for War Machine games, I played AOS for a while. I've never struggled to find games because I've always found a group that played those games, but If you're on the fringes, I get that. Aggression's in. Good evening, Aggression. So he keeps thinking, I keep trying to think of some sage-like insight, but I have little. My 11-year-old literally fell in love with Rebooty Gulliman and has been less excited with other miniatures. Yeah, I think the Space Marines are definitely appealing to younger kids. There's just something about the big guys in armour, isn't there? Joel saying it's a combination of lots of factors. The high street presence and marketing is massive. The marketing one intrigues me because up until recently, they only really marketed within their own publications. So they never kind of supported any conventions. They never kind of went to Salute, for example. They never went to UK Games Expo. They didn't really sort of help out with any tournaments or anything like that. Their only advertising was in White Dwarf and in their own stores. It's only more recently that they've started pushing computer games, and even the Dawn of War stuff kind of went a little bit under the radar. I'm surprised there wasn't more of some kind of collaboration on that to almost see. You do realise we've got some miniatures here as well. Where are we up to? Joel's in. That's what that one. Nick Yellen started playing 40k back when I was about 12. Was second edition. This was about the only war game we knew about. Yeah, and I think there's certainly an element of that. I do wonder if over time, is this why GW are basically milking the cow as much as they can now, because they know that there are kids growing up now, internet access, they get to see all of the different games that are out there. Certainly my generation, there was only GW. Michael is saying, for a company to start with GW, you need the minimum of the core stock, about €2,000, and the rest you can choose. One of the highest buy-ins in the industry. However, as I said before, everybody stocks it. It must sell. They are a business. I can't knock them for having a really good system that works. Joel said, in the old days, after companies did mini, some did rules, etc., GW started selling the whole package in one, and you could see what you were getting. Yeah, I get that. Robert says, I like Legion, love Star Wars. Dice Tales has given a +1 to Star Wars Legion, love as well. Glenn saying he played a game of 40k 8th edition with Orcs. Having 20 boys roll 80 dice with exploding sixes put me off the miniature game. Love the lore and the books. Yeah, there's an element to that, isn't there? Yeah. Joel says, still 1-0 Canada. Cheers, buddy. Michael saying, maybe the Dawn of War computer games helped to reach people that wouldn't have normally touched them. I would love to know if it had a kind of direct influence on that. Or did people only buy the Dawn of War games because they already knew of the... I don't know. Nick said, GW is part of social consciousness. When you tell people you play war games, everyone on the street will say, oh, Games Workshop. Yeah, there definitely is that. There is that. However, those people don't play. But there is that. If you say, oh, I paint kind of toy soldiers, people say, oh, you mean like Warhammer stuff. So yeah, I do know what you mean. Peter says there's a crossover between computer games and tabletop. Maybe more so these days. I think less so in days gone by. I mean, you've just got to see how many games are now being made about computer games. Horizon Zero Dawn, Resident Evil 2, Dark Souls, Devil May Cry, Fallout. All of those things now are showing the crossover and the popularity coming the other way. Randall's in as well. Good afternoon, everyone, he says. Good afternoon to you, Randall. I hope you're well. Paulie P's in as well. Good evening, Paulie. He says, as a returning player to the scene, the nostalgia could have a lot to do with it. Go back to the warm memories of your youth. That was kind of where I got started. I came back into the hobby in my kind of early 30s, painting up Space Marines, because I remember them from being a kid and seeing them in my local GW. But at that point, I wasn't really into the background of it. I was just getting into it as a painter, just picking them up and painting them. And when I tried the game, I really didn't like it. But what it did was it opened up my eyes to just what else was out there at the time. Joel says, it didn't take long for 40k to outstrip fantasy though. Where's that? Just jumped over top of my screen. Didn't take long for 40k to outstrip fantasy though. Fantasy battles had been around for about 5 years before 40k arrived. I may be wrong, but I reckon by 92, 93, 40k was probably the bigger game. Yeah, I would agree. 40k has got something, don't get me wrong. People absolutely love it. People devote their entire free time to this, to the world and the lore and everything else. I do wonder how much of its popularity is based on actually playing the game though, and how much of it is just people love buying their models because their models are fantastic, people love painting their models, people love reading the stories. I do wonder how much of it is actually a miniatures game and how much of it is just a hobby as opposed to a game. I think there's a huge portion of people who buy models or read books, never roll a dice. Bit of a chat going on between Noxie and Randall there. Randall saying just got back from TMX, a lot of fun. Glad you enjoyed it, my friend. Glenn said he does try other games locally. Certain systems have pocket holes. It's another reason why the Weekender was fantastic. A variation of games that don't interest me, mostly RPG community. Yeah, just chatting about the Weekender there. It's one of the things we want to do. We want to just get people rolling dice, give people a chance to try a game you've never tried before. You know, kind of open your eyes to just what's out there as well. There are some beautiful miniatures out there. I mean, Michael's been chatting about Wild West Exodus there. There are some fantastic miniatures in that Wild West Exodus range. Infinity has some absolutely beautiful miniatures. If you're a painter, you're spoiled for choice, really. Andy Smith is saying, simple game in a box, love them. Tanks, X-Wing, Nightvault means you can try lots for little outlay. Yeah, don't take up a lot of space on your shelf. Don't take up a lot of space on the table. Shorter playing time. It's kind of where I am now as well, I think. We've got Sam H in. Good evening, Sam. Nice to see another new face in there. Hope you're well. It says, with a limited amount of time to learn or play tabletop games, it's just easier to stick with 40k, where I know I can get games at the local store without a time investment in a new system. I completely understand and agree with what you're saying. For me, it feels like a lot of people settle for 40k, is what I'm kind of hearing. It's just like, well, if I don't play 40k, I won't get games at all, so I might as well just play that. And I might be paraphrasing, and it might be quite sort of flippant for me to say that, but that's the impression I get from a lot of people. They're almost so invested in it because of fear of not being part of the local crowd, or fear of not getting a game or something like that. The people that are passionate about it feel like a lot fewer than the people that are sort of just playing it by default, I guess. Joel said, I reckon if a kid picked up White Dwarf in a Smith's, that could defo get them to 40k. Never underestimate the power of marketing. The problem is, mate, it's really hard to find a White Dwarf in Smith's. There's so many magazines on them rails. You've got to go looking for White Dwarf. It's not there front and center. It's never like magazine of the month or something like that. I think the amount of people that stumble across White Dwarf will be few and far between, I think. It could be wrong, but I think that's my opinion. If I've ever gone looking for a White Dwarf in a Smith's, it takes me 10 minutes to find it. Fomorian says, I've got the same problem in Germany and Berlin with Kings of War and Vanguard to spread the word about it because of all the GW monopolism. Just 40k and AOS players, about 80%. It's the same here, mate, as well. Probably more than 80% here. Yeah, Robert's saying you can only find people who play Games Workshop. This is my point, really. It's like, what can and what should these other companies do to try and break that monopoly? Because are they just settling? Are they just happy to make a few quid? Are all these other companies kind of set up by somebody who it's a bit of a hobby for them, and they're quite happy just to make a bit of money on the side? As long as they're making a profit, they're not too worried. Nobody's really gotten a hold of it and tried to challenge them yet. Not that I've seen. Michael saying there, the whole thing I mean is when you commit to GW as a retailer, you basically lose your store to GW. Yes, it sells, but they decide what to take, when to order, and what to order. I'm not as close to that, mate, so I have to take your word on that, but I guess if you're not making any money on it, then you just stop basically, don't you? You get out. I'm assuming that if people are willing to kind of sign their name in blood to a license like that, to an agreement like that, there must be something in it for them as well. Randall says, not sure how things stand today, but back in the day they treated independent store owners not very well. Hope that's changed. Doesn't sound like it from what Michael said there, mate. We got Andy in as well, evening buddy. Said, want to learn bolt action, go to Nottingham. Want to learn 40k, go to thousands of GWs. This has been my issue anyway, and it's taken me 6 months to get a game of bolt action, which will be on Saturday. I'm glad you're getting a game, mate, after looking. I think you will. I think the internet has certainly helped. So Facebook groups and things like that have certainly helped. If you're looking for local bolt action players, for example, it should, in theory, be easier to kind of find them now. But I do get what you mean. I mean, although my experience of trying to learn 40k in a GW shop wasn't a good experience, but it was back in the dark days. I'm sure things have changed since then. Joel saying to Robert, often the problem, people get into GW because they know they can get an opponent. I think White Dwarf is a fan mag, probably not a way into the hobby. I think you see some beautiful stuff in there. If you were to pick it up and look through it, it's quite enticing. I'll be honest, there's some nice stuff in there. However, you don't really stumble across it. You've got to kind of go looking for it. Michael said, obviously, I've no money left for other stuff. Flip side is you attract customers, but leave out other games. Yeah, I don't disagree. It's a really hard system to break into, and I'm sure if you're a trade guy working for any other miniatures company outside of GW, I can imagine it's kind of hard getting your stuff stocked unless you're one of the Goblin Gaming, the Element Games, the Wayland Games, all those kind of things. Glenn saying, nudge nudge, if you haven't already, buy yourself a weekender ticket. Yes, there is only 4 days left. Let me see if I can find it in the groups. So, let me find it on my screen here. So I can bring it up to you all. So I can make sure I've got the dates correct and stuff. Right, let me flick across to this one. So, folks, that's a bit big now, isn't it? On there, it's gone a bit big. Weekender 2. It's basically it's the top table legacy weekender. It is a full weekend of gaming from Friday the 11th of October all the way through to 13th of October. Tickets cost £35. That's for 3 full days. However, we do have an early bird offer on, and it's only on until midnight this Friday, Friday the 14th of June. If you buy your ticket before then, you'll save £5 and you can get your weekend ticket for £30. And I'll see if I can find, I think it's in the discussion stuff. Is there I'm not sure if there's some picture in here that I can kind of share. Here we go. There is a little bit about the early bird ticket offer. So basically what we've got is there's 3 full days of gaming. There's a goodie bag. There's entry into the daily events. The daily events there'll be Drowned Earth event. There'll be Middle Earth strategy battle games. There'll be one event on the Saturday, one on the Sunday. I've got Kill Team there, but it's actually a 40k event. There's a Walking Dead All Out War. There's a Vanguard event. And we've also got some wild cards as well, which will be getting filled with events that you, the community, will be voting for. There's also Tommy Sewell will be there from the Gollum Painting Studio. He'll be giving out some painting tips over the weekend. Luke from Luke's APS will be there. He'll be teaching 10 people. That's an extra ticket price, another £30 on top of your ticket price. You can enter into his sort of workshop for the Friday and the Saturday, which he'll be teaching you how to build a display board for your miniatures. All the materials are included in that price and you get to take it away with you. But then you can use those hints and tips to go home and build yourself a gaming board if you so wish. And Mantic will also be there for the full weekend as well. They'll be doing some demos of some of their new stuff that might not have been talked about just yet. And they'll also have a bit of a stall there where you can pick some stuff up. There's a whole load of open gaming. You can play board games, card games. You can bring your own miniatures games. There's a Saturday night pub quiz. There's food on site. It's going to be a fantastic weekend of gaming. If you want any more information about it, you can head over to my Facebook group, the BlackJack Legacy Tabletop Community. You can head across to the Weekender 2 Facebook group and ask all the questions you want there. But yeah, it's going to be an awesome weekend. So, where are we up to in the chat? Furious George says, I was another one who picked up White Dwarf before ever setting foot in the GW. This was in the mid to late 90s. The cover art was ace and the models inside were the coolest things I'd ever seen. However, now, these days, you're probably more torn with Xbox official magazine, PlayStation magazine, Edge magazine, fitness magazines, car magazines, 1,000,001 other things and bits and pieces. I think there's more distractions these days. Joel saying to Furious George, exactly, and I bet you try to persuade your mates. I think you're right. 10, 15 years ago. These days, I think it's very, very different. That's why White Dwarf has changed so many times over the years recently, because it lost its place. It lost what it was about, or it certainly didn't keep up with its kind of peers in the market. Michael says we're painting more Sigmar to attract some more subscribers. So yes, it works. Yes, it sells when I want more subs. It also held responsible for the growth of the company. Yeah, it works both ways, buddy, doesn't it? Where we at? The chat's going well tonight. Thank you everybody for joining the chat. We've got a nice little number in. I think we've got 51 people in or something like that. And I'll try and remember where we're up to now. It's jumping around all over. Steve saying that you've got to realise 40K is massive in the US. Look at some of the big events they have. They have big events because they've got more people as well, to be fair. But yeah, they do have some sizable events. Joel saying it's not groundbreaking, but then it's basically been the same since the 80s. War games rules were a lot more book heavy and mathy back then. Yeah. Noxie said he plays Vermintide 2. So do I. It's awesome. And the new Chaos Bane on the PC. Both old world games. Different gear saying what I mean is some kind of server where you can use cameras to look at the board and move miniatures. I know what you mean. I'm just not sure that they would see any return on investment from it. So they're not going to invest the money. Maybe somebody else could do it and sell the software, but I'd be really, really surprised if GW went down that route. Joel saying Canada are battering Cameroon, but they can't kill them off. Mark saying only part of 40K interests me was the original Space Hulk. Space Hulk was on the Amiga as well. Michael is saying fun comparison. People lose their minds about a 999 piece of aluminium bar for a monitor, but are happy to chug out 100 plus money for one piece of plastic, 15 grams and max 10 centimeters. The value is not in the materials, is it? The value is in the time taken to get to that point where you can go and pick it up from a store, and the time that you then invest in enjoying that thing. There's definitely a kind of a value in the experience as opposed to in the actual material taken. Diamonds, for example, are not rare, but they're a fortune. And so Joel saying, good point, actually, GW appropriated so many other popular IPs. Yeah, it's they didn't kind of invent sci-fi or anything like that, did they? Tim saying, and Mark would love to see Dark Future on tabletop again. Excuse me, let me go a quick drink. The Scottish Tabletop is in. Good evening, buddy. Nice to see you in. This is Infinity has William Wallace. There goes, best game ever. Definitely, mate. Michael saying it's all Wild West and Relic Blade. Bam, well, I'm about 10 minutes behind in the chat. I'm going to skip forward a bit, so if I've missed some of your comments, guys, I do apologise. Everyone's saying about Weekender here. Everyone's saying bargain about the Weekender. Talking of Weekender, I caved in and got a ticket. Anyone want to share an Airbnb or something? I tell you what, buddy, put a post up in the Weekender 2 Facebook page, because I think something like that might work really well with a few people if they want to kind of club together and get some cheaper accommodation. So yeah, that might not be a bad shout. We don't want to kind of sort of take responsibility for organising your accommodation, but if you put it in the Weekender group, you might get a few takers in there, mate, as well. Mark is saying, how do you buy the ticket? I should have said that bit, shouldn't I? So let's so you can, I don't know if that'll be on, can you see that? Basically, you can PayPal, if you use friends and family, please, and then it means that we actually do get the £30. If you send £30 to toptablewargaming@gmail.com, that will secure you a ticket. So these posts will be in my Facebook group as well. So if anybody does want to know, and you're not sure, you want to double check, make sure everything's okay, get in touch with me and I'll point you in the right direction. But if you send £30 to toptablewargaming@gmail.com, you'll then have your ticket secured. So let's have a quick look. Good to see you got a ticket, by the way, Joel. Be awesome to catch up with you again, mate. Flying Mama saying the quiz, mentioned the quiz. I think I did, didn't I? There is a quiz. There'll be like a pub quiz on the Saturday night, ran by no other than me. Yeah, Christian has just been given the email address up there as well, but thank you very much. toptablewargaming@gmail.com. Joel saying computer game magazines were massive in the 90s. They were actually, but I think there was probably less magazines on the shelves as well, I think. Tim saying night all, early start tomorrow. See you, buddy. Thanks for tuning in. Joel saying yes, White Dwarf went a bit shit, but that's not really relevant whether someone will pick it up. I just think that it's not easy to find. It's not like it's kind of... I'm just surprised. I'd love to know how many people these days stumble across it. Because it's not like it's ever advertised. Yeah, people wanting the mug, aren't there? Blizz as is saying, I'm getting into other games lately. Good evening, Blizz as, by the way. So it's just got my copy of Dead Zone today. I like the speed of play. Dead Zone's great. Chime is running out for Mugwatch. How are we doing? Right, I'll tell you what we'll do then. Here's probably the best way I can do it. Let me just double check. If you go across, let me just check the comments in one of my videos. If you go across to, let me find a video that will be worth doing it on, so that you don't, we don't have like millions. Oh, there's never millions, but so there's not like loads more comments in the other ones. Let's have a look. Let's have a look. Great video, this, isn't it? Let's have a look. Right. It's slow loading up because I'm trying to do 10 things at once. If you go across to the live, let me put a link to it in the comments if I can. Which one's got? Right, that one's not got too many comments. Right, if you go across to the Dungeon Crawler live stream from a couple of weeks ago, I'll see if I can put a link to it in the group here and share it. Don't forget to kind of click on it and open in another window, otherwise you'll... So, if I put this into the chat here, if you go across to that video, and I'll tell you what I'll do, I'll head across to it myself. I'll show you what I want you to do. So let me just make sure I pause this. So head across to that video, and then, right, let me show you. If you head across to that video, that why do we love Dungeon Crawler board games, the one I've just linked, in the comments, type in there, whoops, hashtag Mugwatch, and pop that in as a comment, and then I'll be able to dive in and try and get an answer from that. So you've got until 20 past. You've got until 22:20 to get across there. What a place to stop that picture on as well. Let me get back across. You've got until 20 past to head across that video, hashtag Mugwatch in there, and then we will we'll draw a winner. We'll draw a winner for that one. And let me just make sure I can get up a random generator. Let's what's it called again? YouTube comment picker. It's obviously working because I'm getting loads through on my phone here of people commenting. So that's good. That's good anyway. It means it's working. yes, that seems to be working. So, yes, so you've got till 20 past. Get across there, hashtag mugwatch, and you can be the first person to win one of these mugs. my phone's lighting up here with all the comments coming through. Right, let's keep going with the chat then. Where we at? Yeah, so that was Mugwatch. Scottish Tabletop says, when will there be a weekender in Scotland? Would a one in the northeast of England help? If I did one locally, would that help for you guys further north? Claudio says, Blizzard's good choice. So many games I played, somehow everything about Dead Zone keeps me at a favourite spot. Andy said, episode 4, new mug. Mark saying, the quiz winner get a free ticket to defend the crown. You might get a free beer. Andy said, Zap 64, 80s Commodore mags. I remember getting, what was the Spectrum one? I forget what it was called now, but I always used to get, it might have been Zap actually, that might have been the one. Was it Zap? Yeah. Yeah, good ones. Flying Mammal says, we have to stop watching the stream. Yeah, I'll see my numbers drop and then come back again. I think it's, you can open it in a new link, I think. Where are we up to? Bit of chat going on there. Throat Saw's coming as well. Says, sorry to be late. Hope all are well. Nice to see you, Throat Saw. It was nice to catch you at the expo as well. Everyone's saying that they've commented. Joel saying, yes, let's have a weekender in Northumberland. I'm kind of considering the idea of maybe having like a residential weekend, like a kind of like more like a board gaming thing. Where we kind of like rent out a place for the weekend, and there's a limited number of kind of people because it's the ticket price will include your kind of accommodation and food for the weekend. I'm toying with the idea of maybe trying to set something out if I can get prices right. Different cases can't write in the comments. You should be able to, buddy. There shouldn't be a reason why you shouldn't be able to write in there. I'll tell you what. Different gear. If my name comes up, then it's then you're the winner in that case. Scottish Tabletop saying Mugwatch, why not Freedom Watch? Also, how north of England are we talking? Well, I'm Newcastle, so it's kind of we'll be up to probably around Northumberland area anyway. Everyone's saying they've done it. Joel saying yes. Christian says let's have a week-long BlackJackers event. I'm not sure if people. I'm kind of thinking about the cost of it. I'm not sure what it would cost. I don't want to price it out. A week would be awesome, but I'm wondering whether we could kind of do like a Friday evening through to kind of Sunday afternoon thing. Joel saying you can get youth hostels for quite cheap. I've thought about youth hostels, mate, but I think it depends upon, there needs to be kind of space for gaming and stuff, and I'd like to have the place to ourselves, and maybe, like my wife said that she would do kind of like do meals and stuff and catering and things, so who knows. Steve says no weekender down south. Maybe one day, if we ever got big enough, who knows? Tony saying, take my money now, residential weekend, that could be awesome. Yeah, I think what I'd probably do is I'd just kind of run it on my own. It would be limited numbers. It would be like, it wouldn't be like part of the weekender sort of brand or anything like that. It would just be mine. But I'm thinking more board gaming, I think, for that, just so that it's not like sort of not huge tables, you know, probably kind of bring your own booze or something like that. It's just an idea I've always wanted to do, rather than having like a massive tournament with like 80 people or whatever. I'm thinking more along the lines of maybe 10 or 20 people max, something like that. But yes, I'm seeing all these names now pinging up of all these people who are commenting Mugwatch, but they're not chatting in the chat. It would be awesome to hear from you. Loads and loads of people who I'm seeing names here who haven't chatted tonight, but doesn't mean you can't win. It's just be cool to have you chatting in the chat as well. Joel saying you can book the whole thing for yourself these days. Most have big tables. I'll have to look into that, mate. I used to use a lot of kind of youth hostels when I was younger and stuff, like going hiking and up in the lakes and stuff, but it's been a few years since I've used one. So yes, it is now 13 minutes past. You've got 7 minutes to get in on the Mugwatch action. Different gear. You've managed to do it. I've just noticed that one there. So I'll tell you who I've seen here. We've got Different Gear TV. We've got Glenn Seymour, Scouting the Web, Chris Busey. Good evening, Chris. I've not said hello to you. Flip Movie Maker. Hello, Flip Movie Maker. I've not said hello to you. We've got Kieran Morris. We've got Mark Corley. Good evening, Mark. Nick Yellen's in there. Furious George is in there. Sam H. Andy Smith. Throat Saw. We've got Flying Mammal, Scottish Tabletop, Michael for their miniature painting. Tony's in, Steve, Harjinder Singh, good evening Harjinder. Christian's in there, Blizzaz is in there, Peter Nicholas, Noxie, Henrik, Melkavian, Mark Beraclough, Dice Tales, Joel Wrigley, Skullmunch, Furious George, Claudio. I'm sure there's a few more as well, but I've not managed to... I don't think it's showing them all up on my phone at the same time. Some of them are hidden. So, yes, there's plenty of you in there at the moment. I'll have to just go over there and just refresh that as well and just make sure it's ticking away quite nicely. Let's see how many comments it says is in that group now. What's it doing? It's still loading up. 39 comments in there now. So I think there's about 30 people that probably went and popped in there for some comments. Let me just make sure I get the right name from it as well. Let's see if that is. Make sure that one is working. Get YouTube comments. Yeah, that seems to be doing okay. We're doing all right. Right, what else we got here? Where are we at? Claudio saying next one, Blackjack is Germany. We're going to do a first test run with a small dead zone tournament here, so why not a weekender? Claudio, I would love to, mate. I would love to. Flip Movie Maker says hello. Good evening there, buddy. Thank you for chatting. Christian saying residential weekender sometime in the summer months. I'm from south, so don't do well in the cold north of the wall. The only problem in the summer months is I think it'll push the price up. That's the only thing that kind of concerns me a little bit, is that it would push the price up a bit. But because we can kind of do it out of season when these kind of places are not that busy, we might be able to get a good price. But we'll see how that one goes. Where are we at? Mark's just saying he noticed the new Fighting Fantasy boot. Yeah, it's just been announced, hasn't it? Looks pretty cool, mate. Michael says, if he doesn't win, let Hendrik win. He'll bring it to annoy me until he even wins. Peter says, I'm afraid of the White Walkers in the north. Oh, the other side of the wall, mate, we're all right. Joel is saying to Peter, you've got us tough Northerners to look after you. And Hendrik says, Claudio, why or where are you playing Dead Zone? Yes, 4 minutes left, folks, to get your hashtag mug watching. Who else have we got now? We've also got, is it Vincenti Makowski? He's or he or she, I should say, is in the draw as well. So we've got a few of you tonight there. Got quite a few in. People, I didn't announce that this was going to be a place where you could kind of win a mug. I mentioned it on last week's live stream. So yeah, nice little thing. It's just good to have. The live streams are going really well these last few weeks. We seem to be averaging somewhere between kind of 50 and 60 people most weeks, like through the live stream, and then it picks up a few more views. The videos are going up to about 400, 500, some of them as well. So people seem to enjoy them. A little bit of background while you're painting and stuff. If you're somebody that's watching this back on the repeat, please come and say hello in the comments. I'd really like to kind of hear sort of what do you do when you're watching these back? Are they still fun and interactive? Do you still enjoy watching them back or listening to them back at a later date as well? Noxie said the last YouTube giveaway I was watching, I was the mod, so I wasn't allowed to enter. Kieran says the Blizzard's Outbreak wasn't officially discontinued, but it ran out of print and became very hard to get. Might still be out in the wild somewhere. So does Escalation supersede Outbreak now, mate? I don't know much about it. We've got we've got somebody whose name I can't pronounce. I'm going to butcher it. Prezemslaw Plokia. I hope I've said that okay. Hello to you too. Thank you for joining the chat. Glyn says the next thing evolved from gaming retreats is planned holidays. We've got Sparkle Bear Star in, says hashtag mugwatch. Nice to see you, Sparkle Bear. You need to comment in the other video, unfortunately, not this one. So you need to head across. There's a link a bit further up. I'll put the link in again for you last stragglers. Is it that one? Let me make sure I put the. I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll get the link from the last time I posted, if I can find it now. Ugh, I can't see where I posted that link now. There it is. Let me copy that link and put it into here. So for you that have just popped in, I've just put a link in the chat there as well. That's what you need to go across, and you need to hashtag Mugwatch in that chat. So yeah, Craig Lowther, Sparklebar Star, you're in the wrong comment section. You need to be popping them across in there. Scottish Tabletop says they're not White Walkers, they're just Ouija's, people from Glasgow in their natural habitat. We've got Left-Handed Panzerfaust in. Evening, buddy. Not chatting in a little while in here. This is what a topic to wake up to. 40k sucks unless it's second edition. And Kieran says, yes, but escalation effectively replaces Outbreak. Not just a revision, no, adds a ton of stuff and updates the Outbreak stuff. Looks like I need to pick it up then, mate, and find out a bit more about it. That would be cool. Right, it is now 20 past. So what we're going to do is we're going to go across. I will show you now. So I'll tell you what, I'm just going to rearrange this screen a little bit so I can get more of it on so you can see what I am doing. This is all done on the fly here. So I just want you to see that it is all above board. So what you can see here is I am going to copy that from there. We're going to go across to the random comment picker. Let me move that across now so you can see it here. You get to see the magic behind the screen now, don't you? So I'll delete that out. We'll put that video in. Get YouTube comments. So it says that there's 36 comments there. We will now move this up so you get to see. Where are we at? Where do I enter that? There we are. Start now. So let's move that across and we'll come across. So pick a random winner. So the winner of the first ever mug is, let's see who it's going to be. It's Skullmunch. There we go. So congratulations, buddy. How are you going to contain your excitement? You just said that. How will I contain my excitement? So, Skullmunch, you're the winner of your very own, the only first BlackJack Legacy mug. So, congrats to Skullmunch. Let's see what everybody says in the chat there as well. I can see, I don't know why I'm excited I never win. That's because you're slightly delayed, so you're not seeing it yet. I'll have to wait for this. There we go. It's starting to catch up now. Mark saying he's put the brush down, waiting with anticipation for the draw. Glyn saying it's rigged. That was exactly why I wanted to show that it was all above board, just so that you all see it. Everyone's saying hacks, I call hacks. Congratulations, Sean. I'll get that sent out to you as soon as I can, mate. There you go. What we're up to time-wise. So, I guess we've got like kind of 8 minutes left. We've had a good chat tonight. I don't know if it's been kind of, I'm not sure it's one of them where you kind of put the world to rights and then never really kind of, you never come to an answer. But it's good to have that discussion. I would love to see tabletop gaming grow. I would love to see some other companies becoming just as big as GW and challenging them. I guess it's going to take a long, long time. I think GW are going to have to make some missteps. And I think some other companies are going to have to really pull out some blinders to catch up. But maybe one day it'll happen. Flying Mammal says, oh my God, he just jumped out the sofa. I wish he had a camera on him when he did it. Flying Mammal saying she's going to steal it. Nick saying, get on, son. Well done, Skullmunch. He's saying, thanks to everybody. Glyn saying, congratulations to Munch there as well. And everyone's saying congrats, better luck next time. We'll definitely we'll do this again at some point. I think what we'll do is we'll also, I don't know if you can kind of see it, like you can see it there. It says, don't drink me, hashtag Mugwatch on the back. So I've got I think I've got 4 of these mugs. So we'll have some more to give away at some point. We'll also do some different designs on the back as well. So it's almost kind of like limited edition and things like that. So that'll be cool. Randall saying, thank you for the stream, man. Happy gaming. Thank you, Randall. Joel saying, tabletop gaming is definitely growing. I don't necessarily think that other companies need to catch up. I'd just like to see more variety, I think, and I'd like to see others kind of doing well. I suppose a lot of them rely on Kickstarter now really to get that kind of money. Andy's saying it's happening with new hobbyists. That's kind of the feeling I get, really. I think things like YouTube and Facebook and Twitter and Instagram really do help that kind of stuff out. Actually, while I mentioned that kind of stuff as well, so I've talked about the Weekender. If anybody is interested or they've got any questions or they're a bit sort of not really sure about what to expect, please drop me a message. Get in touch with me on Facebook Messenger or through the group, and I can kind of answer any questions that you have. If you don't follow me on Twitter, please head across to Twitter and follow me. It's at BlackJack Legacy. It'll be awesome to have a few more of you folks follow me there over on Twitter as well. I've got almost 5,000 subscribers on YouTube and probably about 450, 500, something like that on Twitter. So head across there and follow me. I try not to post the same things everywhere. So yeah, if you want some different stuff there. And also on Instagram as well. I'm at BlackJack Legacy on Instagram. So it'll be awesome to see some of you on Instagram sharing some pictures. I tend to share kind of pictures of games I'm playing. So I'll take some snaps while I'm actually playing games. That's the best place for that kind of stuff. So yeah, awesome. Everyone's kind of saying goodbye to everyone. Skullman says, I never win anything. I'm shocked. And Joel says, I think there's more variety than there's ever been, and there's loads of companies doing well. We don't need another GW. Yes, mate, I do agree with that, really. I don't want another GW. I just want I want everyone to do well. Do you know what I mean? I like to see that. My hobby and my gaming is about the variety of everything that's out there. And that's why the channel's a bit kind of scattered sometimes. It's a little bit scattergun. It's because I love to find the new stuff. I love to find the undiscovered gems. I love to find the games with the new miniatures or with a rich background or with awesome rules. I like to kind of see bits of everything. Skull Munch is saying hands off Marvel. Left-handed Panzerfaust says 5k and wow, getting good. Yeah, I'm still a couple of hundred short of the 5k, but if anybody would like to, if anybody's not subscribed and they would like to subscribe, please do. If you've got any gaming buddies that you think might be interested in the mix of gaming that I talk about, then please do send them my way. It will be awesome to have you all as part of the subscribers. Andy's saying, Tara, thanks for having me. Thank you very much, Andy. Peter Nicholas says, some were only here for the mug. Got to keep until the end in that case, haven't I? I almost forgot about it till somebody mentioned it. Robert saying, everyone have a good week and take care. Thanks for coming in, Robert. Furious George is saying, I'm here for Andy's mug watch. And Flymal says, you say that much until you want me to wash it. I would probably suggest don't put it in a dishwasher if you have a dishwasher. I've got no idea whether it's dishwasher proof or not, so yeah, under a hot tap would probably do it. Henrik says a 5k giveaway. A 5k giveaway I could definitely do if I can get to 5k. So yeah, Glenn's just saying I've got 215 subs to go to 5k. Yes, 215 subs. Might take me about another month or something like that. So who knows? I'll reach out to some of the people that supported me in the past, some of the companies, and see if we can put together a nice little 5k giveaway. That would be nice, wouldn't it? Joel says, what did you look like in Biker Grove? I looked like this, but like a 12-year-old version. So I didn't have a beard, and I had hair. And I had this is what I remember, I had a Nike jumper on that was white at the bottom, and I think it was yellow on the shoulders. So there you go, watch out for that. Joel said, I'm going to hunt you down. We've got Cardos Darkforge says, thanks for something to listen while I'm painting. Thank you very much for the feedback, buddy. It's always good to know. There's always a lot of people who are kind of lurkers and don't always get involved in the chat. There's always more people watching than there is chatting. So it's good to know that people are just kind of here for a bit of background painting noise. Grover was in Sesame Street. Joel says, what colour hair? It was kind of like a light brown, like a dirty blonde, I suppose. Fly Mall says, were you giving away £5,000? No, definitely not. I haven't made £5,000 to give away. And Andy says, hashtag skullmunch. That looks brave. I have a dishwasher. Her name is Ruth. I'm saying nothing. And Nick says, thanks for the stream, Andy. Thanks for the chat, folks. And if anyone's interested, I'll put photos of the Macavers on the Facebook page. Please do, Nick. I'd love to see them. So he says, Ginger. No, see my beard? It's kind of that colour, but without the grey bits in. Kind of like a dark blonde, sort of mousy brown kind of colour. There you go. Right, I'm going to wrap it up there, folks. So thank you. Like I say, if anybody hasn't subscribed and would like to subscribe, it would be most pleased. most pleased. I'd be most welcome. I would love it. And I will see you all in my next video, but I'll see you all at chat next Monday. So thanks for tuning in, folks, and I'll see you next time.